Let me be very clear. I have great respect for Senator McCain and his service to our country. I always have, and I always will. I do think that some of the statements he's made about me have been unfounded, but I look forward to having the opportunity at the appropriate time to discuss all of this with him.
And that was UN Ambassador Susan Rice just this past Wednesday, responding to Senator John McCain, who had said that he would potentially block her possible nomination as Secretary of State. As you may know, the senator criticized Ms. Rice after her early comments about the deadly attack at the U.S. consulate in Benghazi. Remember, she went on those Sunday news programs, including Fox News Sunday, calling it a spontaneous demonstration, a result of that anti-Islamic YouTube video. Well, this morning on Fox News Sunday, Senator McCain weighed back in on this again.
We'll give everyone the benefit of explaining their position and the actions that they took, and I'll be glad to have the opportunity to discuss these issues with her. But why did she say that? That Al Qaeda has been decimated in her statement here on this program? Al Qaeda hasn't been decimated. They're on the rise. They're all over Iraq. They're the training camps. They're in Libya. They're all over Syria. They're on the rise everywhere in the Middle East.
Well, could the controversy derail Ambassador Rice's possible nomination as the next Secretary of State? Ford O'Connell, chairman of the Civic Forum PAC and former outreach director for the John McCain presidential campaign, joins us, as does Joe Sestak, former Democratic congressman from Pennsylvania. Ford and Joe, welcome on this Sunday morning.
Good to be with you, Eric.
Good to see you again.
Thank you, Joe.
Ford, let me start with you. That's your old boss. I mean, he's highly critical of Ms. Rice, but she has a long history, you know, with the president. Do you expect him to nominate her despite this controversy?
Well, if he nominates her, you know, she should certainly get a confirmation hearing. Look, blaming the intel as a cop-out and her sort of ostrich with its head in the sand defense isn't going to work. The question is why did she allow herself to be a pawn for the administration when it's clear within hours or at least a day, everyone with it close to the matter knew that it was a terrorist attack, and yet still 5 days later, she went on the Sunday shows and said, hey, it's a spontaneous protest in response to a video. She needs to explain herself. Senator McCain's right. And I think Senator McCain made a greater point is Susan Rice is not the problem. The administration is. And if you want to be Secretary of State, you can't allow yourself to be a pawn. You've got to show greater independence because at the end of the day, your responsibility is to the American people.
Joe, is Susan Rice the problem or is the administration the problem or neither?
Well, I think what John McCain, who, first of all, I don't think I could have done what John McCain did as prison war, and I have the greatest respect for that man. But I think what he did today really showed what the real problem was, where all of a sudden he paused and remembered what we learned in the military. Expect what you inspect. And he basically said, look, I'm going to give her an opportunity to explain what really did go down. I'm going to be an American before I'm partisan. I want to know what went down. And then I'll make my judgment. And I think that's what everybody should do. I think that, as I've said before, there were those who happened on certain aspects of Benghazi where it's been less than a commanding effort. But all that said, the Accountability Review Board that's now being headed by an ambassador with a chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff on it, just like we had a chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff on one just a few years earlier, needs to get to the root of what occurred. And then let's do what Americans really want. Let's make a decision based upon the facts in a very pragmatic way, because I think the lack of trust and what people are saying in Washington, D.C. is our biggest deficit. Maybe we can regain it by acting upon what the facts are, and then that's what should be done.
Well, you know, Ford, I mean, it seems to some Ms. Rice has a lack of trust, even though she says she did rely solely and squarely on the intelligence, says it's not her fault, and she said she made it clear that what she was saying about that Muslim video and that demonstration was preliminary.
Again, blaming the intel is a little bit of a cop-out. I think she needs to get the opportunity to explain herself, and she really needs to take accountability of her actions. It's clear, it seems to be clear, nobody knows for sure, that she allowed herself to be a pawn for the administration. And again, if you're going to be the nation's top diplomat, you got to show some independence. Yes, you have to have loyalty to the administration, but at the end of the day, your responsibility is to the American people. But I do agree with Rep. Sestak. The bottom line is we have 4 dead Americans, no answers, and we need to get to the bottom of this in a bipartisan way.
But when you use the word pawn, I mean, you know, you're part of administration. You say the administration line that they say they believe is true. I mean, is that a fair characterization?
Well, here's the thing. Why did they send her out there? Why didn't they send Secretary Panetta? Why didn't they send David Petraeus? Why didn't they send Secretary Clinton? Something tells me those folks would have been better suited for this situation, but yet they sent her out there. And I think part of the reason was because of her loyalty, and they wanted them to hold the line for the administration. Again, we don't know that, but that's where sort of the arrows are pointing in that direction.
Well,
but if I could.
Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, if I could, and with all due respect, Ford, is when I worked in the White House, we really made sure that we understood that there was really we never ever met a one-armed intelligence officer, because they're always saying on the one hand, but on the other hand. But that said, when we were given talking points, we made sure that we stayed true to those talking points from the intelligence agency that's supposed to give us the information of what goes down. It's not that Susan Rice is blaming the intelligence agency. If she was telling us she had ignored what the intelligence agency had given her, then we would be having a diplomat that is a cowboy out there. Boy, she should have gone right down with what the intelligence agency gave her. That's not being a pawn. That's what's doing the right duty. If I could, just a moment, Ford, if we can just do what believing that the intelligence agency gave her the right, the facts, then speak those facts. Now, I have no problem with people like John McCain asking to find out what went down, because he differs. But let's get to the facts before we say
I understand what you're saying, Rev Sestak. That is the protocol to follow the talking points. But if the talking points said, hey, the earth is flat, are you really going to follow them? Come on, it seems that everybody, including the president, he made this point in the third debate that he knew it was an act of terrorism. I find it very hard to believe that she didn't at least think that was a possibility. She could have either declined the opportunity to go out there and speak, or say, hey, we need to change the talking points because I know better. And now you want to put her up potentially for Secretary of State in this sort of global, situation that we're having all around the world. I think we need somebody, depending on what happens with this hearing, who's loyal not only to the administration but to the American people.
And Joe, I just don't want a person who's our ambassador to the United Nations to overrule what an intelligence agency has given her. If she did, then we'll find out afterwards. I just don't like cowboys out there.
And Joe, final point, and I want to point out that you are a former Vice Admiral of the Navy, served 30 years in the military. You were on the, you were the defense attaché to the National Security Council. Do you think she will be nominated? And if she is, do you think that she will be confirmed as the next Secretary of State?
I served with Susan Rice at the National Security Council. She is a fine representative of the people of America as a diplomat. And if she is, and I don't know, I'm not on the inner circle, obviously, but if she is nominated and they finish this investigation and find that she did what she was supposed to do, is adhere to what the intelligence agency gave her, yes, I think America would be well served by her. And I think you will actually find out John McCain will support her because he wants to do what's right for America.
Wow.
I
agree
with Rev
Sestak. Go ahead.
I agree with Rev Sestak. If we get to the bottom of this and we have a forthcoming, confirmation hearing and we get down to everything that matters, then she should be nominated. Obviously, she's qualified. She was given a unanimous consent to be UN Secretary, so obviously she's there. The question is, again, can we find out where her loyalty lies, whether it's to the American people or just solely to this administration to push forth their agenda?
All right, Ford and Joe, and a prediction from Joe. Thank you for joining us that John McCain will eventually support Susan Rice if she's nominated. Joe, we'll get back to you on that in a few weeks. All right, thanks so much, both of you.
Thank you.